Hi there. Welcome to a new series, which is the behind the scenes of the evolution of Minecraft. So this video and series in general won't be quite as scripted as my normal videos, and yet, ironically, this intro bit is very much scripted because there's a lot I want to say, and I just kind of suck at making coherent sentences when I have a lot of information to deal with. But yeah, in the last update video, I said I'd be making a series going over the updates of Minecraft and its history, and that's what this is. It's based on a very old video called The Evolution of Minecraft that coincided with the release of Minecraft version 1.0. And basically, I thought it was a really cool video, and a while back I got inspired to sort of replicate it in modern Minecraft while keeping many of the techniques they used to make the original video, which I'll get into in a little bit. But yeah, the average video length of an episode for this series will probably only be a few minutes, but I do have quite a lot of explaining to do, so this will be significantly longer than most of the other episodes, bar like the final episode, which we're working towards here. So yeah, the original video that many of you may have seen will be linked in the description. I'd actually highly recommend going to give it a watch so you can kind of understand better what I'm trying to replicate. But in the original video, they have a scene built in front of a track similar to this track here, and basically the camera account just goes down the track while all the action happens in front of it. But as the track goes on, it travels seamlessly through all the updates that Minecraft has had up through version 1.0. But I kind of wanted to take that idea all the way to the current update, which is Caves and Cliffs Part 1, which literally just came out a few days ago. But who knows when this project will be done. You know, there might be another update after that when we finally get all the way down there. Lastly, at the end of each behind the scenes episode, I'll show off roughly what the final product would look like as a part of the full video, just so you guys can get a feel of the direction I'm going with, and so that you guys can recommend any advice or critiques. And with all the bullcrap out of the way, let's hop right into the actual video. So yeah, before I actually hop into all this scene and what's going on in front of the track, I kind of want to explain what the track is. So in the original video, they have just a camera count that goes evenly along a track here, and it just goes like this the whole time, while everything happens in front of the track here, which is why I have this bedrock line. That's kind of the line that the player will follow, and obviously all the bedrock and obsidian won't be here. In the end, it's just for me to help get a feel for what's going on as I work on the project. So yeah, how this track works is I type in a command to make sure I'm properly lined up, and then I just go down the track like this, and watch as everything unfolds in front of me. So yeah, behind the track here, I have a lot of different bedrock pillars that just help me line stuff up. I don't really use those anymore. I also have signs here to kind of label when each update happens. I'm going down the line, and then also just kind of some things to help me set it up. So obviously I have teleport my player to that location, as well as make sure clouds are on and turn video settings to these specific settings just so that I have it looking properly for the video, just so I can replicate the same feeling every time. And yeah, I have full screen because I normally don't play on full screen. I just have it windowed, but I'll go ahead and swap over to that real quick. And yes, I do normally play on Quake Pro FOV, and I already have my render settings set to 12 chunks. But yeah, so with everything typed in properly, it'll look something like this with the player on that first line of bedrock, just like as a Steve skin, just a blank account. And so the obsidian on the side is just kind of the border of what the starting position can see, and so I basically start like this. I have a macro that I set up so it just holds down back and right so that it goes at this exact speed all the way down. That's kind of how this track works, and I guess I'll explain each part of this. We're only going to go actually so far in this episode here because there's a lot I want to do, but it also takes a lot of time to make all of this and put it all together, especially since I didn't know a lot about command blocks prior to starting this project. But yeah, we'll probably start at PreClassic and go down to the start of the Indev or InfDev development period, so right at this mountain here, and I'll explain like what all this is and why I have it here, as well as I'll explain kind of what's going on back here as we go. So ignoring the other account that I have over there for a second, I'm kind of going to walk you guys through everything I built here in this first area and just show you why I built it and how it's going to work out. So the first part is obviously PreClassic, and when the game launched, it was literally just a flat grass area with a few blocks in it, which is what those are laid out to be. So this is just kind of instructions on how it all works, kind of walking me through what I'm doing in this first part. So yeah, it's actually really simple just because there's not a lot to do at this part. So it starts off kind of bland and boring. And obviously I have these indicators here that wouldn't be here in the full release. But so as the account starts going down the line here, you know, start walking, it'll keep up with the camera count on the track, sometimes going slower and sometimes going faster to keep up. But so this first part, I just kind of have it going like this, just kind of placing a few blocks as it goes, and then placing the blocks there. Obviously, I haven't really fine-tuned it because I haven't worked on this part for a while. These right here, these two bedrock blocks, are actually for the human mob Steve when that was in the game. So there used to be like Steve players that you could summon with G, I believe, that would just kind of jump around and act like idiots. So I have a few Steve accounts that just kind of get teleported here and stand awkwardly, just to kind of show that off. But yeah, with what I'm trying to do, that's kind of the best way I can replicate it without actually using mods, and I'm just trying to do this in vanilla so that works best. Then obviously the void was in the game, so we jump down into the void and sit down here and wait for the camera account to trigger a pressure plate, which is maybe this one, yeah, right here, which would teleport. Yeah, I already have it linked up to this account, but so the player account would jump in the void and then get teleported up right there, and keep walking on. And then of course down here we start to get into new development of new blocks, you know, roses, dandelions, sand, trees, and mushrooms, stuff like that, as well as water and lava. So I kind of show that off. Sponges used to be in the game way back in this version, so the account would be walking across here, and once it gets down to here, there would be a sponge in the player's inventory. You know, just dry up the pond like that, and then I have a command block to reset it back there for when I needed to. But yeah, just to kind of show off sponges, and then the player keeps walking. Of course, down here they added gravel, iron, gold, coal. Pigs and sheep are also added in this version, and I'll actually show how I did the pigs and sheep in the following episode, but it's just basically summoning mobs with no AI staring in a certain direction, and they just sit like that forever, and I don't have to worry about dealing with them again. So moving on, I believe it sets the player into survival mode. These are just some blocks that were added in this version that I was trying to see if I could work them in smoothly into it. Of course, I'm not able to squeeze everything in. It's kind of hard to just randomly throw all the blocks out there, but like, hey, this is what was added in this version. It just doesn't flow as well or look as nice, so I purposely excluded some blocks. But yeah, so this summons the bedrock here, which I believe would be out of shot prior to this. And so this pressure plate summons the command block as well as sets the player to survival mode. And so I have the account basically just try to mine the bedrock block here. But yeah, so I'd have the player account try to just mine the bedrock for a minute, realize it's unbreakable, and move on before the account actually gets set back to creative mode. You know, giants were added in the game for a while. They were removed after a certain point, but that summons the giant right down there at the end of this path here. Looking down to where the player would be at when it gets to it. And then this clears the player's inventory. I believe the player is given a pickaxe at some point to attempt to mine that. And then this summons a sort of wool pathway. Again, I've never really worked with command blocks before, so doing something like this took a lot of time, simply because I didn't really know how to use command blocks. So all the commands put in here, I basically learned while working on this project. If I do this and start having the player account move like this, I start going like this, and so the player's going along this path, starts kind of wonky doing this, and then punches the giant, it gets killed. And it's just to introduce the different colors of wool, as well as the giant mob. I thought that was kind of fun. This is a daylight cycle. I kind of had to set up a wonky timer for it, just because if it goes through the time too fast, it's really just awkward, and you don't get a full see the full cycle of the sun going down and turning to night, which is what I wanted to see. So I just have it set on a weird cycle that doesn't transition quite as fast. So yeah, I mentioned these signs up top earlier that just say the start of each development cycle. So obviously this is pre-classic, starts here with just the very basic stuff, and then classic starts here with adding a bunch more like world generation stuff like that, and that goes on for quite some time, with Indev starting at this point. And we're gonna go just to the end of Indev today, just because of the type of stuff that was added. And so I don't go by each individual version that was added to the game. I'm not going like version 0.01 of Indev and then 0.02 of Indev and just going down that and seeing what's added. So I'll take all of Minecraft Indev and then intermix the changes to make it flow better. Because plus, if you look back on the wiki back from early 2009 and 2010, it's just not really well documented and hard to look through. So a lot of this time that I spend working on this project is actually just digging through old wiki pages and trying to make sure that everything lines up and is factually correct. But yeah, there's been quite a few times where I've had to go back and retroactively change something because I realized one wiki page said it was added in that version when it wasn't actually added till a future version. So it just kind of makes stuff pretty challenging. And then I should probably mention, when I go through and build all this stuff, it's actually all built by hand, but it's all just taken exactly out of a version. So I'll go back to an old classic world and work on this and see, is this what lava pools look like in this version with the sand or with the gravel and stone? And so I'll copy it block for block in here. And you know, I've been asked by some people that know about this project why I don't just use world edit, and it's kind of just, I like the experience of just sitting here building it myself. It just makes it feel I don't know, more enjoyable for me. So I just built everything by hand, all the way down, which is, these mountains took like 3 hours on their own to do both sides. That wasn't very fun. Back there you see a brick pyramid. That was one of the original randomly generated structures that I just felt like throwing in the background as an Easter egg. And so yeah, this is the last version that I haven't gone over yet. Indev, they started adding crops, of course, and fire. I have no fire tick on, so nothing changes here, as well as I have no game ticks on, so it just, nothing, no crops grow. There's no game updates, and it just helps make things like this a lot easier, so I can kind of not have to worry about this tree burning down and have to repeatedly build it. I also made a little shack here. It just says, "My house, please don't grief." I don't think you can actually see it from the track, but it just kind of shows off that ladders, doors, and signs were added in this version. Glass obviously being added in the previous version. And then this chest, which no one would ever see, is kind of a throwback to the older versions with food and stuff like this only being stackable by one. So actually, I just double checked. I think I almost forgot to add diamonds to this project. Obviously, there's a diamond gear in here, and I believe I wanted the player to suit up in diamond armor before heading down into the mines, but that would have been a pretty major thing to miss. I have a little crafting station set up here just to kind of imitate what a little build would look like back in Classic and the Indev versions of Minecraft, since there wasn't a whole lot you could actually do back then. So yeah, that's pretty much the end of Indev, and I've swapped my FOV back, but I just kind of want to show off the background here, and you'll see these like facades of hills and mountains that I set up here. And yes, I built them all by hand, they're just a facade, but I built these because it helps to keep the scene feeling complete without like feeling it goes on forever like it does at the beginning. It's just obviously an endless blank slate, and that's kind of why I set the render distance to 12 for just to make sure you can't see too much, but at the same time you see just the amount that I want you to. But so if we set my coordinates and set the camera count properly, this is why I set the FOV back to 50, but like over here you can see there's a little gap under that tree that you can just kind of see on infinitely. So that's the type of thing I'll go back and fix when I get the chance. It's just not something I noticed originally, or like right here, there's just a big gap leading on forever. And I actually originally had the render distance come way further up, so it actually stopped about like right here. I think I had like 5 chunk render distance, but just how they've updated the game since I started this project in the past 2 years, it made fog look really weird, and so I decided to just knock the render distance way far back so that there wasn't the weird fog obscuring everything, and so that I could still make everything feel complete. But so things like this just kind of got missed over time, so I go back through and just add on to make sure that you can't see on in the distance forever, and I've done that for every part of this whole build all the way over. And there's an accidental screenshot, but yeah, I'll show off over here and what's further down in the coming episodes. But with that, and I've shown everything off here, most of the signs and command blocks I've already shown off, I want to go ahead and give you guys a little preview of what it's going to look like in actual time, like in the actual video, now that everything's done here. So I'm going to go ahead, set up my macro, get everything set up, and just give you guys a preview. I'm not going to give the actual narration or script that I'd have when doing the full thing. I thought I might as well show off what it's supposed to look like once everything's done. So as I finish getting everything set up here, I did want to address that I thought about using the replay mod in the past for this, and I still might, but I kind of wanted to replicate the original design for this video, so that's kind of what I went with for now. So it's a track just set up with the macro, which I just finished setting up, and we'll go ahead and hop right into it now. So yeah, so there's a Steve here just kind of walking around along this track, exploring the world, and then kind of just showing off the new blocks, and it's a little janky on this mouse. Of course, the player accounts would be right here by Steve, and Steve jumps into the void and then waits to be teleported up. So then obviously I keep walking along here, kind of going out to explore some of the flowers, stare at those things, and visit this pond over here. You know, the beginning is kind of bland. Get a sponge, of course, for this upcoming pond here, and then just sort of place it in the pond so you can see how sponges worked in the original video. Again, the beginning is a little bit slow just because there wasn't a lot of content, so there's a lot more I have to work with. Then looking over to admire the new ores and pigs and whatnot, and then attempting to mine the bedrock. Of course, it doesn't work, so he gives up, and we head over to this track where Steve is going along it, where he punches the giant, and it dies. I keep walking. I grab stuff out of the chest, and I need to clear my hotbar, and that is it. Alright, but yeah, that's kind of it. That's kind of the gist of the whole thing. I forgot to mention, of course, the night cycle going on in the background. You can see the brick pyramid, but it shifts to night as Steve heads down in this cave, and I just cut it there so that you guys can see what's in it, because that's for next episode. But I want to try to make sure Steve gets fully equipped with armor. I might actually set that up with command blocks just so that I don't have to worry about stressing for time right there. But yeah, that's going to be about it for this episode. I actually really appreciate you guys watching. Let's go back to my normal FOV. I appreciate you guys watching, and I hope you guys will enjoy this series and come along with me. So as time goes on, we'll build more stuff. I'll show it off. And then you guys can recommend stuff for me to tweak or add, and I'd actually greatly appreciate you guys' input if it's too boring at a certain point. Bar at the beginning, of course, there's not a whole lot I can do right there, but like if it gets too boring, let me know, and I'll work to change it. Or if you guys have any suggestions, please let me know, and I'll also work to change those as well. But yeah, I hope to see you guys next time. Thanks for watching, and goodbye for now.